Closing you. Got it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Prime Latino Media, 10th anniversary Valentines. We have Omar Camilo from Puerto Rico, Vagabond Beaumont, one of our honorees tonight, Ana Ramos. We have our former Community Service Awardee. We've got Judy Wong. I've got Alex Pasos, Luisa de la Ville, yay, from Venezuela in New York, rocking. Maria Escobedo, one of our honorees tonight, who is from Burbank, California. Gloria Celaya, one of our madrinas. I see the Judy Wong from college. Yay to one of our honorees, Iris Morales, yay. And we have Sonia Gonzalez Martinez, the extraordinaire editor, also director, producer. I see Tyson in the background. Hello, Tyson. And yes, we got Vagabond. Omar is here from Puerto Rico. We got everyone in the house here. Remedios, David Norris, also from the island of Puerto Rico. You're looking great out there in Burbank, California, Maria. And truly Escobedo. Emily Fernandez. Hello, Emily. Rocio's on her iPhone, but she's on with us from Rutgers University in New Brunswick, one of the deans that I was honored to serve on the board for the Center for Latino and Arts and Culture, CLAC, not to be confused with CLAP, that's something else, for 22 years, and Fernando Ramirez chuckling away at my humor all these many years later. Fernando Ramirez, Esquire, a lawyer also extraordinaire like Sonia Gonzalez Martinez, who's one of our honorees tonight. I feel like we're back in the days of Romper Room. Stephen Vega, who was instrumental in taping a lot of our Prime Latino media salons when we got together. And our administrator tonight, who will not be taken for granted, Jose Rodan Jr., who is an actor, screenwriter, playwright. Father Forgive Me for I Have Sinned is one of his greatest one-man shows set in the South Bronx. We have Sofia Angelica, a great singer, also from Rutgers University. By now she's graduated, so there's a dean from Rutgers here. So be careful, because if she's got stuff against you, she will out you. We have Blanca Vasquez y Lola. Is that Lola? I guess that's Lola. And Belén Orsini, another great Venezuelan on board. And Flavia Romani. And we've got a party. This is your opportunity to speak among yourselves. In case anyone has a special shout out or anything. Omar, you're going to have limited time when I get you to give you the award. But what are you filming now? I hear you're filming a 4-part series in Puerto Rico on violence.
Yeah, about violence, different violencia de género, violencia callejera.
Gender-based violence.
Y violencia contra los superadultos o adultos mayores.
Okay. So gender violence against women and violence against senior citizens. And is it specifically just on the island of Puerto Rico?
No, it's for all the markets. I don't know
what I mean. Where are
right
the stories?
now,
Where's the story?
Only in Puerto Rico, yes.
Only in Puerto Rico. We have Neida Martinez, new school professor. I know her as long as I know Fernando Ramirez for over 22 years.
No Don.
No Don. Right.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you.
We're not going there yet. But so congratulations on doing that, Omar, a very important subject. And I'm glad that you're tackling that in a 4-part series. And I hope it gets wide distribution, because it's not just in Puerto Rico. It's universal, but I mean, especially as Latinos, we know how this stuff happens in our culture, from patriarchy when we deal with women, and universal that, there's two groups society doesn't care for, and it's children and it's seniors. And that their elder abuse is rampant. So I'm glad that, and we don't talk about that in the Latino community. So I'm glad you're talking about that.
It's important. Yes.
So welcome to Prime Latino Media. It's our 10th anniversary. And I wouldn't be here without all of you. And some people have really bent over backwards, not only during these 10 years, but I'm going back with some people 10 years before that, when we were connecting with NALIP, the National Association of Latino Independent Producers, that then we, graduated to become from a West Coast national organization to East Coast, which is what Prime Latino Media is, and the Caribbean. We're very much about Cuba, Puerto Rico, y la República Dominicana. And I'm glad to see Ana Ramos is not only a former community service awardee, but she's a programmer at WNET, the local PBS station here in New York City. So shout outs and besos y abrazos to Ana Ramos. And she, again, she's going to do something special tonight. But again, what I credit this woman is, years ago, she was the one that convinced WNET to devote June programming to LGBT issues. She was the one, of course, as a proud Latina, that advocated we got to have Latino programming and we need to do something to that effect. And someone like Cristina Ibarra, who a proud Chicana in New York, who last year got her MacArthur Genius Grant Award, $250,000, got her start because she got greater visibility at WNET PBS in New York because of people like Ana Ramos.
Yeah, not going to see it. We might put her on your phone.
Enable camera and microphone access?
Yeah.
All right.
It's great to see a lot of you.
Lillian's on.
And we have Lillian Jimenez, also an awardee tonight, one of the 10 awardees. Lillian Jimenez, whose reputation speaks for herself. But she's done a lot of incredible stuff that we will be hearing about tonight. Want to make sure that I have acknowledged everyone. Jose, am I supposed to go on another screen or am I fine?
You can actually scroll to the right, yeah, if you need to.
To the right. When you're saying scroll, is there?
So you should see in the middle of the screen, there should be an arrow that says 1 of 2.
No.
So you don't see that at all?
No,
On the left or right side, it should be.
yeah, it doesn't. And because all my boxes aren't filled, I don't think I'm on a second screen.
Well, because there's 28 people now and I'm on a second screen. So.
Okay, so again, technologically, we don't use the term anymore, retarded, but yeah, I can't, I'm stuck on the screen and there's no arrow and there's no scroller, so I'm not gonna waste our good time. But that's sad that I can't, I can't. It says I have a view page, full screen, and I'm on full screen. So I don't want to mess around with these things because let's see. How do I
You don't have a border? You don't have a border with 1 or 2, 1 of 2 in the
no,
border?
no, not at all. Are you seeing that?
Yeah.
Huh. That's really great.
He might be able to see all 30 people because I can see everybody. It
Oh,
depends on your account. If you
Right.
have certain accounts, you can see all 45 people, up to 46 people.
Right. So I got the Magnum account. But anyway, happy anniversary. Happy Valentine's Day. We always, first of all, coincidentally, our anniversary is February, but I also like to take advantage during February and say this is our Valentine's party because I love you. And this is our opportunity to spread the love and to share and to say to those that have bent over backwards, we love you and we recognize you. And it was so funny when getting together with Nada, she said, oh, what are the parameters to a community service award? And I said it's to people who bend over backwards for the community, who put the community ahead of us, at their own detriment many times. We've talked about that, Fernando, to our own detriment, but it says a lot, you know, and I think number one, something that connects all our community service awardees is that they could have gone, even within their same career track, they could have gone in another field and made a lot more money.
6674.
Yeah, try and replace your name with a real person. Ma.
Ma, I know, I see Ma, is that Raquel? So, is anyone watching? Is everyone aware that in the Winter Olympics, there's somebody from Puerto Rico? So I think that's fabulous. There's someone from Puerto Rico in the Winter Olympics. And I'm Omar and David, are you aware of that? Que hay alguien de Puerto Rico representando en las Olimpiadas.
Sí, yo no, ni conozco, I don't know it, but I know that hay alguien allí.
Yep, there's somebody.
Insólito para mí.
There is some, and I'm almost sure it's a woman, if I remember correctly. So I may be wrong. We have Melissa Ramos, who just joined us, and Melissa Ramos is a partner in crime of mine, but she's also tonight launching the 21 Islands International Short Film Festival through Pregones, and it's virtual and it's free. So if you go to pregones.org, you will see 21 Islands International Short Film Festival, and it launched today. And it's really, really incredible. It's short films from island nations or islands off nations. And it's brilliant. Lots of animation, lots of experimental stuff, fiction, documentary, Taiwan, everything from Taiwan to Madagascar. And I'm always proud to see Puerto Rico there also. Melissa, do we have Cuba and the Dominican Republic represented in this year's?
Yes. We do.
Very good, very good, very good. So Melissa's on board. We have Eddie Aguilera is involved. We still don't know who Ma is because Ma is in the darkness there.
I'm right here. Okay.
But I see Ma. And so I have Lillian. You're all in red.
Lillian, we can't hear you though.
Well, to everyone attending tonight, I toast you. 10 years strong, 10 years strong. So we got to get a nice big glass to reflect that. Does anybody, before we go into our program in 12 minutes, is anyone developing something new? I see Esperanza is on board. Hello, Esperanza. Anyone developing, Fernando, is there some documentary we should be looking out for? Because, and I know you worked on Stanley Nelson's Attica that premiered at the Sundance Film Festival and Showtime is carrying. And I honestly, I haven't seen it, but it's top like 5 documentaries I want to see. And I've only heard phenomenal things about Attica.
He just got nominated for the Oscar in this category.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so we're really happy. It's a long time coming for him, you know. He's
Absolutely.
You know.
He is not only the leading Black filmmaker to screen at Sundance Film Festival. I think he's the documentary. What's this echo?
Somebody's got their volume on, and so it's picking up and there's feedback. That's what the echo is.
Okay, thank you.
If you're not on 2 devices, are you?
Nope, I'm
Okay,
just
it's somebody else. It's not you.
right.
Melissa
So-
was unmuted, that's why.
Okay, so Stanley Nelson, who heads the Firelight Media, and Firelight Media empowers filmmakers, documentary filmmakers of color, women color, ethnicity, race, LGBT, and they take every year, it's competitive, a few documentary filmmakers, and they groom them. And there have been some phenomenal people and projects. I mean, I heard Loida got was it the DuPont?
Yeah, she won the Columbia DuPont, which is super,
Right,
with
right,
her broadcast on POV.
right. So it was broadcast on POV. She's Afro-Dominican, and she did a documentary on a home, a private home in New Rochelle that takes care of kids. So working parents, especially single working mothers, can go and work, and it's 24 hours because our communities, they work night shifts, they work day shifts. So it's cinema verite. She just let that camera roll, and she followed this husband and wife that run this private house with the house. It's really like the old mother in the shoe, with just a number of kids who are loved, who are fed, who are educated. They play games with them. They take care of them as they go to school, when they come back. And so I'm glad to hear the documentary really was wonderful. She worked at Firelight, and I think she was a product of the Firelight Media group. And it just shows. So Stanley Nelson is not only the leading Black filmmaker who has screened the most at Sundance Film Festival. To my knowledge, he is the filmmaker that has screened the most documentaries at Sundance.
And Lloyd has also been, it's worth mentioning, she's also been a mentor to and a resource to a lot of filmmakers.
You want me to put it here?
Outside of Firelight Media as well.
Let me see. Yeah. Yeah.
You muted, Louis.
I'm unmuting. I didn't touch nothing. There I go. Okay. That it shows the power of when we get together and my mother always said, two people get done more than one person. And what I love about networks and community organizations is how we help push people up that rung, that rung up the ladder, and we can't do it alone. And when we get together, this is what happens. And again, brings me back to the community service awardees. They have been instrumental in really pushing people forward, their projects, initiatives. And, I wouldn't be here without this community. And this is what I love about it. So, Sophia, are you recording anything new?
Hey everyone. Some of you may know my mom, actually. I see Gloria Celaya there. Hi, Gloria. It's been so long. Susan Ryben, that's my mom, if any of you know her, but she was here last time. I remember her telling me about the event, that it was a great event. But yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter, so I'll be releasing actually 2 songs, uno en español, one in Spanish, tropical, and the other one in English on 2/22/22. So 2 songs on 2/22/22. Lots of 2s going around.
Gotcha.
But working on an album to go along with that'll probably come out in the late spring or summer, which I'm really excited about. So to find it, I guess you can follow me on at Sophia Angelica Music. I'll put it in the chat, but yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Right. And Susan Ryben, her mother, for over 30 years, has the leading Latino children's, dramatic training academy. And she also works as a manager. So she's had kids that have graduated to work on Broadway. So she's one of the hardest working women in the industry, and Latina. So Felix Rodriguez is on board, and Felix is one of our awardees tonight with the Community Service Award. Welcome, Felix.
Thank you.
I met you at NALIP, 15 years ago, something
20,000 years ago.
Right, exactly. So welcome on board.
Thank you.
We have Wilhelmina. I see Jose Angel Figueroa. Naima Smith. I am so glad, Naima. I meant to reach out to you to say what was happening tonight, but you beat me to the punch, and I'm so glad you're here to experience this, because this is the community. I see Leslie Jean Bart on board. Hello, Leslie.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Jose Angel Figueroa, I see you here on board also. And let's see. So I'm just trying to make sure, acknowledge everybody. Melissa, before we launch in 5 minutes, do you want to give us a word or two about your 21 Islands International Short Film Festival? Melissa,
Now?
okay, perfect. We have it. We have it.
So we are launching today, just this morning, 21 Islands International Short Film Fest 2022. We are screening around 53 short films from 21 islands worldwide. It will be from the 9th to the 23rd, and you can go on pregonesprtt.org, watch the films, and you can also vote for them.
Melissa, there's one research I didn't do in regard to one of the groups that we filmed at Pregones in May that we'll talk about. What was the group that did danzón music from Veracruz in Mexico? What was that group?
Jarana Beat.
Jarana Beat, thank you. I needed that in the back of my research neck. And so just trying to make sure it's Naima Smith. Naima Smith, we credit more than anything when we wanted to give Ana Ramos the award, and I heard I was going to get the same pushback this year with some of our awardees. Ana Ramos is truly an unsung hero. She likes to be in the limelight. And when we offered her the award, she didn't want to go for it. And it was Naima Smith who works with her at PBS. I can't, this is a GP audience. I can't say what you probably said to her behind the scenes or how you threatened her if she didn't go for the award. But because of you, even so much, Naima said, I will take your photo so you have a photo for this and I'll help you with your bio. And the rest is history. She, and again, Anna's, I call it the baby bathtub syndrome. It's hard to get a baby in the bathtub, but once you get them in the bathtub, you can't get them out. That's Ana Ramos. So thank you again. We really, Naima Smith is the digital. She runs the digital services at the WLIW All Arts channel. It's one of the 9 channels that WNET channel 13 PBS has. And All Arts it's really a gem. And I'm going to toot her horn under Naima Smith. The channel has grown. And it's truly one of the best newsletters you will see in the industry. And it's completely devoted to arts. And it's 24 hours of arts, and she's there. And, so I love my people. It is, just looking at the time, 7:28. I want to start on time so that we have time for everybody. And we have John C. Whoever John C. is, Clandestino. We'll call him John Clandestino.
It's me, Felix's partner.
Okay. So I will take that. Good enough. Good enough.
Hey, Louis, by the way.
Yes.
The 15-minute short that I did called The Perfect One just got released on Motion, on its Moving Pictures Institute.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So you guys should watch it.
Congratulations. Send me a link and I will
put
work
it in
on
the
that.
chat.
That's my job, is to promote. So it's 7:29. We have 10 people that we are honoring tonight. And I think I've already laid the groundwork that I'm a great believer that we accomplish much more as a community than separately, or worse yet, divided. And that, I'm always a great believer, especially when you're new in the field, networking is the way to break into it. But at any stage in the industry, it's always great to belong to a network. And I've been part of networks for over 30 years, whether it was women's networks, Black networks, NALIP, National Association of Latino Independent Producers, even the first two Latino organizations I was involved with, which was the Latino Collective with Judy Escalona. Then there was Hamas, not a Palestinian organization, but the Hispanic Academy of Media Arts and Sciences in the early 90s that lasted for a few years and had conferences in DC and New York and chapters in New York, which from there, people like Kiki Melendez was involved. And then I got involved with Women in Cable and Telecommunications, the National Association of Minorities in Communications, NALIP. And then it was time to create our own because I didn't find we had a home that reflected us. That was East Coast, that was predominantly Caribbean, though also South American and Central American and Mexico being part of North America. And that also we were bilingual, and we are bilingual. We speak English and we speak Spanish. And I wanted to make sure that was covered. And then it just continued growing to include Cuba, La República Dominicana, and Puerto Rico. And, you know, we started 10 years ago, just multimedia makers. And then we grew to include actors. And then we eventually grew to include musicians. So, you know, so I want to start off with our first award, but every award is going to be introduced by someone. And again, we've got 5 minutes for every award because it's, you know, 10 of you, it's 50 minutes right there. And, you know, Latinos, you know, we can talk. So I want to introduce Ana Ramos, who is a bona fide community service awardee from Prime Latino Media, to introduce the first honoree.
Hello, everybody. It's really great to be here with all of you and to see so many old friends and faces.
Hey, what do you mean old?
Old friends, not old people.
You're old, Louis.
I would be the oldest, trust me. I never go there. Full confession, when I first met Lillian Jimenez, I had been a programmer for a while, and I had talked 13 into letting me produce a Latino arts festival, a series, a Latino art series. And, but as a producer, I was a newbie. And I had the good fortune that my very first Latino film festival I attended was won by, I think it was by a Latino collaborative that Lillian Jimenez had a part in putting together. First person that I saw when I walked into the theater was Lillian Jimenez. I introduced myself, and in a very short time, it was evident I had hit the mother lode. This was a force to contend with. And what can I say? Lillian has done it all. She has run an arts media center. She has been an independent producer. She has been an educator, longtime educator, a filmmaker in her own right, and co-founder of NALIP, the National Association for Latino Independent Producers. And when a group of budding young filmmakers and myself decided to start the NALIP New York chapter, it was with the often presence of Lillian that was really helpful. Lillian's absolute experience and her insights and her irrepressible candor and her ethics all were invaluable to this group of young filmmakers. I can't say enough about Lillian. There are not enough acolytes to bestow upon her. And it is a privilege to be able to introduce her to all of you. I give you Lillian Jimenez.
Oh, Anna, we're twins.
No.
Twins, we're in black and red. I love it.
We know.
Thank you for that, Anna. That was really lovely. That was very sweet. Thank you.
So one thing that she didn't cite that, you know, for the limited time we have is something I know you from also of your many lives and wonderful things you've done. You were very involved with Chica Luna.
Yes, yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about Chica Luna?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
why you got involved?
Well, because I was out of my mind. So Chica Luna was an organization that was established by essentially three people: Alicia Miranda, Sonia Gonzalez, who's on here, yay Sonia, and Sofia Quintero, just really wonderful, exceptional women. And it was a small organization that was really established to make sure that women of color knew how to make narrative films. And so they asked me if I would be their sort of temporary executive director, and I said yes.
You truly had lost your mind.
And so I worked with them for a couple of years. It was a wonderful, exhilarating experience. I lost my mind.
And what's amazing about you is when you have cable TV, at least, you know, Spectrum, it automatically kicks into New York One News. So I'm turning it on one morning in my office, and there is Lillian Jimenez protesting with a bunch of people outside El Centro, you know, Hunter College's Puerto Rican Center. And she's protesting because for 2 years, they have not had an archivist, which is one of the seminal reasons for that organization to exist. And there's Lillian Jimenez, as my mother would say, una entremetida, but thank goodness for you. And so, and what spurred you to do that too?
You know, I had worked for the Centro when a fellow was there, who is now the chancellor of the City University of New York. And I had done a number of oral histories for them, some of which had come out of the Antonia Pantoja experience, and some of which came out of the left. You know, Richie Perez, who was a young lord and had passed away, he was also with the National Congress of Puerto Rican Rights, and was a real pioneer in anti-police brutality. When he passed away, I thought, my God, our people are dying and nobody's collecting our history. And so I started doing a series of oral histories on the left, and you know, did people from the Lords, Benji from the Lords, just some wonderful people, on the ground folks. And so I worked with them, and I felt committed to their mandate, their mission. And it was really clear that you know, it was being defunded and really sort of strangled. And I was really eager not to let that happen, because that's our legacy. So I decided to join this group, and because soy entrometida, I facilitated the first meeting, y me fastidié y me quedé con ellos. So here I am.
So 2 quickies, because we're now spilling over into the next month's time. A quickie is, it's remarkable that you did the seminal documentary on Dr. Antonia Pantoja, which, as you've also said, the reason we have bilingual ATM machines when you go and you can choose a language was that she was a huge contributing factor to bilingual education, getting bilingual to be more the lay of the land. But you did a documentary on her. But what I'm curious is something that was rarely spoken about in our community is, you not only was she an, you know, Afro Puerto Rican, but you also touched very openly in the documentary that she was a lesbian.
Yes. Yes.
As when others swept that under the rug.
Yes.
Tell me how you felt compelled that that was part of the story.
So her partner, Wilhelmina Perry, is actually on the Zoom with us. So kudos to Dr. Wilhelmina Perry. They were partners for over 30 years. And, you know, I had asked Tony if I could deal with the issue of sexuality. And she said, you know, it's your film, so you do what you feel like you need to do. And I was really shy, because so many people said to me, you're going to ruin her legacy if you talk about that. And so I was at Aspida, and a little girl said to me, shame on you. You're not saying who she really is. And I was mortified, mortified. This little 10-year-old said, shame on you. She said, was she married? I was like, no. And she said, was she a lesbian? And I said, yes. And she said, shame on you, you're not saying who she is. And I'm telling you, that little girl galvanized me to deal with her her being a lesbian. I'm so glad that little girl shamed me into doing it.
So my last question is, rather than, there's a school of thought that believes that young people are not mobilizing and organizing to form networks the way you did, 20 plus years ago. Someone's got to turn their music off in the background. So my question to you is, why is it important that we continue having these networks, be they professional, be they ethnic, be they racial, be they gender, be they sexual orientation? Why is it important that, as you were the model for that and one of the co-founders, Tanela, why we must continue that? Or is that passe?
I don't think it's passe, because I think that you can look at, the whole uprising around the death of George Floyd, and that wasn't, individual, one individual standing alone. It was masses of people, and it really did have an impact. And so I think it's important. I think what happens is that in this society, there's so much emphasis on individualism that people get very concerned about their career, and it's a cutthroat industry. So I think that starts to take priority. But the reality is that collectively we get more done. I'm a Marxist. I'm an old socialist. And so I'm going to say it. I'm 71. I can say anything I want to say at this point in time. And most of what I've done is really based on those principles that I learned as a young person in a militant organization, in Comité MIMP. And so, later on, we executed those same principles in the Latin Women's Collective, which I was also a co-founder of. And so it's all about collectivity. My parents taught me about collectivity. We were a family, an extended family, and we stuck together when it was really hard times. We looked out for each other. So I think it's part of our culture, a part of our Latino culture. It's a part of the African-American culture to be able to stick together when times are tough. And let me tell you, times are tough.
Well, and because of that, you lessen the toughness with your love, your great mind, and your power to bring us together collectively. And for that reason, we're giving you the Prime Latino Media Community Service of the Year Award, because you certainly deserve it from our hearts. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
So can you introduce the next one?
I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Maria Escobedo. And I met Maria Escobedo in the early days of organizing for NALIB. And she was a person who was really active in the community, very interested in social justice. And she was in the programming committee of the New York Women in Film and TV for many years. And that was not easy, because that was not an open organization during those early years. So she fought her way in there. She was also one of the original, what were called spearheads. These young people talked about themselves as spokes. I still remember. As spokes, and they talked about direct democracy as opposed to representative democracy, which was what we were used to. And she was one of the leaders, one of the spokes, one of the spearheads of the New York NALIB chapter. And I remember that at that time, I was with National NALIB, and she, Vagabond, and I, Vagabond, we wrote a proposal to the New York Writers Guild to create some workshops for storytelling so that we could move into narrative film. And we actually got $5,000 from that proposal. And that was the beginning of the Producers Academy. And so Maria and Vagabond need to be congratulated, because they really helped to spark that. In addition to that, she has been the chair of the Latina Writers Committee of the Writers Guild of America for 5 years. And in all that time, she's been mentoring young people, and, with enormous integrity and honesty, telling our stories in television land, which has not been easy, because, getting into NIWIF at that time was not easy, but getting into TV was even harder. So I bring you Maria Escobedo with much pleasure and joy.
Maria, so even though you've been living in Burbank, California now for, what is it? Your daughter is 18 or 19?
18.
18. You left when she was a year and a half old.
Yeah.
You have been a writer forever. and you finally you submit it yourself to the ABC Disney Fellowship Writers Program, and you got accepted, and it entailed going to Burbank, California, and you worked on Grey's Anatomy as in the room of writers for a year. And you left us, but embodied, but you've never left us. I've never let you go. Just like Leon says, let me retire. And I'm like, you're never going to retire. You're going to be with us forever. So did it, I mean, after you now heard, I think you know me to be crazy, but I'm crazy, nice, wonderful, and fight for you, all of you. But do you think I was crazy when I said you deserve the Community Service Award?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. Here's
Wait,
the thing.
Yes,
I mean,
yes to me being crazy, or yes to the award?
well, of course that you're crazy, but also yes to the award. I just have to say that, and this is a great time to say it, because Lillian, when I first met Lillian, I mean, first of all, I could sit and listen to Lillian speak for hours. So I'm, you know, I'm her biggest fan. But when I first met her, I remember like pictures of her, and she's protesting and like doing all of this wonderful stuff that, you know, I feel paved the way for so many, you know, other Latinas, especially, you know, to be able to do stuff. But I remember telling her, God, I don't really, you know, I admire you, and I don't really think I'm an activist. Like, I don't see myself that way. And she's like, are you kidding? You're here. Like, you're here and you're doing what you're doing. And, you know, just representing is a form of activism. And so I've always like, you know, it's empowered me in any way that I, you know, and I always give of myself and my time, and you know, that's just who I am. So I never put that together with being, you know, with being an activist. So I still don't like, you know, carry it as a, you know.
You're a very you're a very subdued activist, which you definitely are. And you're from Washington Heights, so
Yes.
come on, you know, you're a Cuban from Washington Heights when there were a lot of Cubans there. But, you know, so you who've worked a lot with the Writers Guild of America West and worked with Terry Lopez, who also we met through NALIB and stuff like that, why do you, you know, beyond the obvious of we need to be able to tell our stories, why is it important to also groom our writers to have the chops so that we get accepted into those boardrooms?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about boardrooms, but like writers' rooms, is that, you know, the funny thing is that this newer generation is a little bit different. Maybe they're a little bit more empowered, and we've, you know, again, paved the way for them. But I feel like, you know, like just the way our culture is, that we sort of don't share a lot of stuff, you know, like we kind of keep everything, you know, inside about like our stories. And, you know, we're, I think, afraid to be judged in some way, you know, like there's just a lot of like history that comes with who we are as a people. And so when you get into a writer's room, you can't be that way. You have to just be open. You have to tell your stories, because everything that you speak about, that's a little story that you may not even think, you know, is important. It becomes, it sort of goes into this like whirlwind of ideas, and it becomes a story that then, you know, we leave the room and it stays there, and it you know, it somehow becomes a television topic, you know, a topic for your character or whatever. So I think that's part of what I really feel, you know, grooming is the, you know, is the letting go of all of the baggage that we carry, and being able to speak openly and honestly and share your stories.
So in closing, what was the greatest gift you got by being involved in networking organizations?
I think it's sort of feeling, and believe me, I still suffer this, but I mean, feeling like you belong at that table. I think that's, you know, yes, it was difficult to get into NIWIFT. And when I first got there, you know, I was the only Latina.
By the way, NIWIF is the New York Women in Film and Television organization that ironically now, 20 years ago, you had issues, but now it's run by Cynthia Lopez.
Exactly.
Proud New Yorican, who was also involved in the early stages of NALIP. But, you know, it was a predominantly white female organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it was also because of experience. You know, you had to have some kind of experience to get in, but you also had to, you know a few people because you had to be recommended, you know, in order to get in. So anyway, I feel like yes, I think being part of a lot of these organizations makes me feel like I'm, you know, like I pull up and I'm at the table with everybody else.
Well, you certainly have carved your way. You're working on an animation series now for children for the last year and a half. You've done quite a number of projects, but you're also renowned for mentoring, helping break down walls, knocking on doors. And for that reason, we're bringing you back to New York and saying you still belong to us and you deserve the Prime.
I never left.
You never left. You deserve the Prime Latino Media Community Service Award of the Year.
Yeah.
And we love you and have for over 20 years.
Thank you.
And who are you introducing?
Well, I'm introducing the third gatito that walked into the Writers Guild asking for money. When I first met Vagabond, he basically, and I think he still describes himself as an anarchist. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And slowly got to know him and just, you know, yes, I mean, completely fell in love with who he is as a person and you know, respect all of the things that that he believes in, that he does. And so a couple of things, I mean, you know, he's advocated for a Puerto Rican independence movement. I mean, that's, you know, been sort of at the heart of who he is. And also to free the political prisoners. And, you know, that's, you know, again, what he lives for. And I think one of the sort of things that really stands out is how many times he's been banned from Facebook for for speaking his mind and for having his opinion.
Which he wears as a badge of honor. That's the best part.
And we all wish we could, really. So I, you know, yes, that brings me a lot of joy.
As we live vicariously through him.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for introducing Vagabond. I mean, we've loved you forever. You are, I mean, not only are you a filmmaker, but you are a community person who got hoed down in the 90s, and you were painting in groups murals. Tell me about that.
Yeah,
by the way, I want to introduce, this is Vagabond Beaumont.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to Lillian and Maria, because I always looked up to them when we were first getting together to do the NALIP stuff, and we were struggling to try and create a sort of a Sundance Lab style thing for NALIP, except that I didn't want it to be focused. I remember specifically saying I didn't want to be focused on the commercial aspects, distribution, all that other stuff, but more aesthetic aspects and more film history. I'm still on that axe, grinding that axe away. But in terms of the murals, the way that I got involved with my political life and it's really weird that I'm getting this award for community service. Most of the time when I get an award for community service, it's from the court for showing up. So this is a little bit different now. But I got involved with a punk band named Reconstruction, and Reconstruction sort of had gotten involved was always advocating for the Puerto Rican, advertising for Puerto Rican independence. And we were part of a group called the Puerto Rico Collective that Sonia was a part of, a few other folks were a part of. And it was all towards leading up to the 100th anniversary of the invasion of Puerto Rico on July 25th of 1898. And so a few of the Reconstruction folks and myself went around and we planned, I just designed and planned a bunch of murals. One was the Machetero mural that was on 110th Street and Park Avenue that no longer exists. We had the Lolita Lebron mural that was on 109th between Lex and 3rd. And the last surviving mural, which is the Chelvisu mural on 105th and 3rd. And the Puerto Rico Collective were the ones who organized all that stuff. I'm really proud of the Chelvisu mural because I think if we can make it to this summer, I know the building's under construction and it's under a bunch of scaffolding, it'll be 25 years. And that I never imagined that it would last 25 years. So we did a bunch of other smaller pieces that were, of course, torn down and disappeared. I have pictures of that stuff, but yeah, stuff for the political prisoners, I was tagging up 1898 all over the place to get people to recognize that it had been 100 years. So yeah.
Now, and you know what? And even though they're not there, but you have documentation as an archivist, which you have the obligation as historian, an anthropologist, a sociologist you are of sorts, that you should start circulating that. Either post that, in between you're getting kicked out of Facebook, post that, share it with us, or put it out there, or do a story, do a short film around there. But, ideas have been born out of these cauldron gatherings. So I don't want to hear that it doesn't exist anymore, but you did it with a group of people, and it was immortalized in what lives in what you documented as. And it's that documentation we need to carry. My last question to you is that what do you, coming from where you came from the mural world, from going to get a $5,000 from NISCA, what advice do you have for people, whether they're young people or cultural or professional? What do you recommend in regard to moving forward? And besides collectively, but what should be at the crux moving forward now at this, it's different now than it was 25 years ago. What should people be aiming for and formulating in gathering collectively?
I think the most important thing right now is I've been on this grind where I've been talking about that we should start to believe in hopelessness. I'm a big believer in hopelessness. The reason I say that is because hope, when you hope for something, you're hoping within the current paradigm. The current paradigm is the system is not designed, it doesn't have flaws, it has features. The things that work against us are features of the system, not flaws in the system. So to hope that something's going to be fixed within that paradigm is a fool's errand. You have to think outside of that paradigm, expand that paradigm, think outside of it, which means that if you, frame your struggle in a certain way, people will say to you, well, that's crazy, that's insane. If somebody says to you, that's crazy, that's insane, that's impossible, then you're on the right track. You know what I mean? If they say to you, it's hopeless, then you're on the right track. The good thing too about, this idea of hopelessness is that, that light that's at the end of the tunnel is probably just another oncoming train, and you're completely prepared for that. So I think that's the most important thing that I think that people do that. And I also think that we need to reframe questions. We need to reframe the questions so that we can find the answers. I think the problem is that we reframe the questions again within the current paradigm. And because we frame them within that current paradigm, we can't find the answers. We're struggling to find the answers within it. But that paradigm doesn't allow for the answers to be there. They're always existing outside. So I believe I'm a big believer in what Zizek, Slavoj Zizek, a Slovenian philosopher, calls the courage of hopelessness. So that's what I would tell young people, is to be completely hopeless. Wow. That's where all your answers are. Right. That's where all the victories and the struggles are.
Well, you have always given me hope. And for that reason, we're giving you this year the Prime Latino Media Community Service of the Year Award for everything you've done, you're doing, and you will continue to do.
Well, I feel very humbled by the fact, because I'm hanging with some pretty heavy hitters here. And so I was like, wow, this is kind of came out of left field for me. So yeah, it's a real honor. I'm very much humbled, especially with this crowd. I didn't know if I could. I feel like I was punching above my weight.
No. You're a grain in the sand, just like everybody else. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Un abrazo. So I now want to bring Melissa Ramos on to introduce the next community service awardee.
All right. Okay. So I have the pleasure to introduce Rosalba Rolón and Alban Colón Despierre, both founding members of Pregones Theater. I have been collaborating with Pregones Theater, I can say almost 6 years. And Louis asked me, I was like, what am I supposed to say? And he said, why? And I'm like, why? Wow, that's a long list, right? If we're gonna talk about Pregones, because Pregones, besides being a wonderful theater, for me, it's an institution. It's a cultural institution, and it's a family. And one thing that I can say on my experience is that every time they go on like a venture, it is an adventure. You don't have all the answers, but they have the right questions. And that's how we have worked with the festival, right? It's like, how do we do this? What do we need for a film festival, Melissa? And I said, a theater. Oh, we have it there, right? Like everything is an exploration. And I think in that's how you grow. And I've seen so many people grow with Pregones and myself, so many artists and different type of artists in different fields. So I present to you Rosalba Rolón and Alban Colón.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. For me, it was a natural when the committee, remember, it's not just me, it was a committee of people, your community, who, when we were looking at who needs to be honored, the two of you came up automatically. And it's not funny, but it symbolizes who the two of you are. When I went to Rosalba and I said, we want to give you and Alban this award, she said, no, give it to Pregones. It's the team. It's the whole team. And again, she comes from that universe that we do it collectively. No one does it alone. And what I love about two people born in Puerto Rico is that you've really made your heart and your home the South Bronx. And that I'm going to lead right into the question. And you even have expanded with Miriam Colón's Puerto Rican Traveling Theater. You now have a wonderful theater in Midtown Manhattan in the 40s, 48th Street, is it? 47th Street.
Yeah.
On 47th Street between 8th Avenue and 9th. I mean, you couldn't get more closer to Broadway than that. Yet you continue putting most of your marbles in Pregones in the South Bronx. Why is that? And why haven't you gone the commercial route?
And we only have 3 minutes, right? So
No, first, this is Rosalba.
and this is Alban.
She's a founding director of Pregones Theater. And yes, she was born in Puerto Rico. And I am Alban. And no, I was not born in Puerto Rico. I was born in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Oh my God, all these years later?
No, but it's a long story. Nevertheless, I went back and forth from the United States to Puerto Rico. And here we are, and we are really happy to be with Prime Latino Media and congratulate Prime Latino Media on its 10th year. This is amazing. And of course, the other thing that is amazing for me is this amazing group of activists and artists that are here with us. And I congratulate everybody. You know, I am very pleased. And the work that we do has always been rooted in community. in our neighborhoods since the beginning, and we will continue to do that. That's it.
I have to tell you that Prime Latino Media was a recipient. You know, during a horrendous time in our history for artists was when all the performing art spaces closed, including pregones. And yet, so you weren't open to the public. You weren't open to the public, but you did something phenomenal. You opened up your theater to performing artists to make their art there, to film their art, to rehearse their art. As long as there wasn't a public during COVID, and you had the SNAP grant where artists applied for it and they got up to 36 hours. What the point is, we got there for 2 days and we filmed as part of our mission 5 independent Latino musical groups. And we could not have done it without, and Pregones is, I think, is a jewel of a theater. It's a flat stage, but it's phenomenal. I feel so much at home, and so much has been done there, from musical performances to theater. You just did Torched, an opera. I consider it an opera about the Bronx's burning, is the latest thing you've done. So anyway, and while we were there, we filmed this multi, Latino group, mostly from Veracruz in Mexico, Jarana Beat. And Alban was there as the keeper of the gates at Pregones. But he sat down and he said, I want to listen to them. And I just saw you. I was watching. I love in a theater, you watch the back of someone's head and you know what's going on. And Alban was really mesmerized by this group. And I think you booked them. So
yes, we did.
I mean, isn't this wonderful how we can still introduce one another to something new, but that you make it happen? You're an integral part of that chain, because without the theater, I could have never brought them in. I could have never filmed them to be able to do something on higher ground with them. And then you yourself were like, I want them for us too. And
well, this is what Pregones is about. And I just first of all want to thank Melissa for her introduction, because Melissa is the director of our 21 Islands International Short Film Festival. This amazing woman and filmmaker, receives more than 2,000 submissions from more than 300 islands from around the world, and curates a whole package so we can have 55 films, short films from 21 islands. And I mentioned that because it's one example of how Pregones and Puerto Rican Traveling Theater cannot exist without the very active presence of our ensemble members, our guest artists, our guest directors like Melissa, and organizations like Prime Latino Media like you, because you were part of growing up of this festival. And I just want to say that one of the things about keeping both venues, the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater in the Broadway district and Pregones in the Bronx, is how we, in talking to a friend a long time ago, I said, it's like we're managing the center from the margins, and it just felt so good. A lot of people in this group have been part of our growing up. But you were right with your introductions. We are about ensemble work. We are about collective productivity and collective processes. And I think that for everyone here is the same story. We cannot do it alone. And we need to learn that. And so I just want to thank you. We have today, between Puerto Rican Traveling Theater and Pregones and honoring the iconic Miriam Colon, we have really partnerships around the world, and they're very active partnerships. And we just bring the torch of the Bronx and of our Latino community everywhere we go, which is pretty much covers a lot of corners of the world. So thank you so much, and congratulations on your 10th anniversary.
yes, well, thank you. And I think the two of you used a word. I feel we Prime Latino Media have grown up in Pregones when we did Bronx Film Wednesdays also, until the pandemia, that, March Music you know, and I could go on. It's just, so for that reason, Rosalba Rolón and Alban Colón Lespier, muchísimas gracias for all you do in bringing the community together. We need a house and you offer us a house. So un millón de gracias. And for that reason, you both en Pregones get the Prime Latino Media Community Service
Gracias.
Award
Gracias. De
2022.
corazón.
De
Gracias.
corazón y con mucho, mucho amor. And then next, I want to bring from Colombia in New York, Carol Colmenares. Carol, there she goes. Ay, wow, those are cool glasses. I like that. Very good. So Carol, who are you introducing today? Okay, ahora sí.
Ahora sí. Hola, how wonderful to see everybody. Gracias, Tío Luis. Thank you for making me a part of this 10th anniversary. It's wonderful to see many people that I have heard of, that I have had the pleasure of working with and have had the pleasure to look up to. For those who don't know me, I am Carol Colmenares from Timeline Digital, and an independent producer like many of you. And I have the pleasure of introducing somebody that I don't know too much about, but I have been doing research all afternoon. So I can tell you that he is a native of Colombia, like myself, and a fellow CUNY graduate in the media field, and that we share a commitment to our Latino community. New York City is delighted to have this person newly, we are delighted that newly elected Mayor Adams has tapped into his talents. And his contributions and qualifications are celebrated and recognized with tenures in New York institutions such as the New York Daily News and the City of New York, as communication professionals in agencies that touch our daily lives, such as the Children's Services and the Department of Transportation. So without further ado, I introduce you to Jose Bayona, Executive Director of the New York City Office of Ethnic and Community Media.
Yay. Thank you.
Wow,
Thank you very
Jose.
much. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And I am proud of being here tonight. So, and to share this time with you. And Tío Luis, many years of friendship. In the moments that years ago, 25 years ago, I came to this country, and from Colombia, I went to Venezuela, and from Venezuela, I came here. So when I came here, I didn't know anybody. I didn't speak a bit of English or anything. I was undocumented with like many people. I came here, and Tío Luis was there since the beginning, talking to me, being my friend, giving me advice of how to, connect with people, connect with organizations, and here we are today. So I just want to say that it is time, after all these years in New York City, it is time to give back to my community, and especially to the Latino media and all the media, community media in New York City, because I strongly believe that there is a lot of room to grow for us. There are many opportunities every day. So as you have heard, many of you have heard that Mayor Eric Adams appointed me as the new executive director for the new office of Mayor's Office of Ethnic and Community Media. This is the first office of its kind in the United States and possibly in the world, because we've been researching and we have no knowledge of any other mayor's office that just work with ethnic and community media in any city. And we can do that in New York City because we are so diverse here. So you know that we speak more than 500 languages in our city, and we have like hundreds of outlets in different languages for all the communities. And just for the officials city directory that is for marketing purposes. We have, this morning I checked, and we have 367 outlets that cover print, digital, TV, and radio. And that doesn't count the mainstream media, you know, the networks or even New York One. This is just the community and the media. So you can imagine that if we have more than 367 that are approved, we must have like almost 1,000 in New York City.
So what I find fascinating about you is how we originally crossed paths and how you went from Colombia to Venezuela. Is you were an actor. And
Yes.
tell me, what's the fine line between being an actor and being a press attaché, shall we say, to the mayor of New York, as you were to Bill de Blasio, as you were during Eric Adams' campaign? I mean, is there a fine line between arts and drama, and also how you were able to make or was it a complete career change for you?
No, it was not a complete career. Just let's go back to our countries, you know, talking specifically about South America. In South America, when you go to college for communications, that covers journalism and theater and film and art. So it's one field. Here in the United States, it's totally different. So it's divided. But if you go south to all countries, you can see that actors are also journalists. So people, you know, that they act on TV, they have these programs that they do talk shows, and so it's more combined. So when I came here to New York, I came because I wanted to go to NYU. So I did a film certificate production at NYU, and my goal was to continue doing theater and film. I worked for many years at the Repertorio Español, outside. I mean, not in the stage, so just in the production area. And a friend of mine who is now with us today, Albo Ruiz, he was at the Daily News, and he said, we have this.
Que en paz descanse.
Que en paz descanse. He was my second father. So, and they created this new newspaper called Hora Hispana, and the first edition they did, they came to me and say, we wanna write an article about this new movie from Gael Garcia Bernal, The Motorcycle Diaries, Los Diarios de la Motocicleta. So the studio gave me the tickets. I went and watched the movie. I wrote the story, and they liked it. And 2 weeks after that, Gael Garcia Bernal came to New York City to do promotion for the movie, and they said, you gotta to interview Gael Garcia Bernal from the Daily News. So I started writing, but it was from the theater and film that I jumped into writing for the newspaper, and I got into communications, okay, writing. One day I said, you know what, I need to make this a career in the United States. So at 40 years old, I went to college for journalism. So, and I did a master, and after that, I kept working on journalism. But one day I said, I want to go into city government. I joined the prior administration 7 years ago, and after that, I did the campaign, and we are here now. So, but it's not, there is no, inside me, there is no division between arts and communications, because that's when I grew up, that was one thing.
Okay.
So it was the same thing. So that is why there is not, I'm not strange to both of those.
So my last question to you, and what I love about you and what drew me at one point to nominate you in the committee, was that you often would pick up the phone. I was on Mayor de Blasio's Latin Media Commission, but you would often call and say, and what about Latinos? And what I'm saying is, I understand you're now heading, you know, ethnic communities, but why is it important that a Latino be present at the table? Because what I've noticed with you is that you care for all diverse communities in New York City, but you happen to also notice more when we're missing, when a story is being told, the way a story is being told. So again, the whole reason, why is it so important that at least one of us be seated at the table?
Yeah, it's important because we are 29% of the population in New York City. So, and I still believe that we are not represented the way we should be. So that is this push that I have every day inside the administration. So when you are outside, so you can say this, but when you are inside, you can push from inside too. So which just the last week we have this conversation, and now the new commissioner for the Consumer Affairs Department, so it's a Latina. So, and there are more Latinos coming because there is a campaign. So inside, and we say the tradition has been that we have deputy mayors that have been Latinas. So, and there is a long way to go, but I think now it's better because the diversity has been expanded this year more than in the prior administration. And that's gonna reflect on everywhere, not only in the city government, also outside city government, in corporations, in projects. So we have a better way or a better prospect to see in the future more Latinos involved in positions of leadership.
So because of the fights you fight, because of advocating for us, that's why we felt strongly that you deserved the Prime Latino Media Community Service Award for 2022. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor to get the award. Thank you very much.
Gracias for all you do. Okay.
Gracias.
Jose. Un abrazo.
Gracias a todos. Un abrazo.
So from Puerto Rico, David Norris. David. David.
Hi, Louis.
Estoy en Nueva York, digo David. En Puerto Rico es David Norris.
Puede ser David también. Hi, Louis. Thanks for having me here tonight.
Okay, and who are you presenting?
Well, I will be presenting a dear professor of mine here in Puerto Rico, Miss Sonia Fritz. And I will be talking about her for just a minute. Sonia is one of the pillars of Puerto Rican cinema. In my college years, I had the privilege to be a Fritz student and still have wonderful memories from that time. We studied her documentaries and feature films, and I've always remembered her creative exercises showing us how to write great dialogues, scenes, and achieve three-dimensional characters. Throughout the years, Sonia has continued to create films, but she has also continued to support her students, new and old. Today, I can say that I'm a product of the teachings of this magnificent filmmaker. Many of my colleagues in Puerto Rico have passed through her hands, and I know that we all feel the same. We are all in debt. Thank you, Sonia. Los dejo con Sonia Fritz, ahí, que una cineasta grandiosa de nuestra patria.
Thank you. Sonia Fritz, a friend, a fellow filmmaker, documentary and narrative, a professor from El Sagrado Corazón in San Juan, a proud Mexican who says, I have lived in Puerto Rico for 37 years. And you live, breathe, and eat Puerto Rico, from doing a documentary on the ecological preserve island of Mona to the 15 lighthouses in Puerto Rico, whether they're functioning or not, Los 15 Faros, the 15 lighthouses, to doing a documentary on After Maria, to doing a narrative film. I could go on and on, but when I first met you at least 15 years ago or more, you were the co-chair of the Puerto Rican chapter of the National Association of Latino Independent Producer. So this is who you are. You imagine at the same time, you're a filmmaker, you're a professor at the university, and then you get involved in a network. You know, why is it the story of your life is working in teams with film, when in shoots? When you're working in a shoot, you're working in a team. When you're working at a university, you're working, for better or worse, with an administration, but you're working with students, and you believe in the power of professional networks. ¿Por qué? Why?
Well, first of all, thank you, David Norris, for the wonderful presentation, introduction. And I was also very pleased to have you as a student and so many other students that I now admire and see doing great things in the Puerto Rican film scene, be it independent productions from the island or working for series, the many series that have come to shoot in Puerto Rico. So thank you for that, for your words. As for your question, Luis, I think that we are lucky to be members of this creative industry and to work with the team and to collaborate and do trueques indios, as we say in Puerto Rico, since the budgets are not the ones that we would like to have, but we keep going, right? So we have a team of people we work with on set or before that, doing research and script, and then during the shooting, and then afterwards in post-production. And I, as a professor of Sagrado, was really lucky to have wonderful students. I think that the university, for one reason or the other, attracts really talented young people. And we're just sort of the coordinators and sometimes pushing them to really give the maximum, because we see their talent. And so we just go to the street and film, and they do their short films, and they're wonderful. And we have these screenings every semester, what they did on a professional theater, except in pandemia, right? But they work as professionals, and they also get to promote their work and screen it and talk to the audience and see what they've accomplished. So that makes me very proud. And I think I was very fortunate to do that until last year. And I'm spending more time doing documentaries, and that's also a passion of mine. And it's always a work of community. And I was also blessed to work with an ex-student of mine, Juan Carlos, who is the one of the executive producers of CUNY TV for the series Puerto Rican Voices. So it was really nice to work with a student of mine in that position, executive producer, director. And it went really well. So we just turned in that documentary, and it will air in March. So
on CUNY TV here in New York City.
Right.
Wonderful.
And they'll have also a screening on internet. They'll tell us about that a little later.
And please let us know so that I can let the community know.
Oh,
so
sure.
let me ask you in regard to the question of community, two more questions before I let you go. Community, do you find that maybe we work more collectively and more community because we're Latino? I mean, I know it's difficult. It's like my partner's an only child. So when they ask him, like, how do you feel that you don't have a brother or sister? He says, I don't know. I never had one. So I don't miss that. Can you say that maybe it's because as Latinos, we work together in community? Or
maybe it's that. Maybe it's also that in Puerto Rico, people are organized to help each other. Like I, as well as Omar Camilo, are part of the documentary association, ADOC PR, that is very active and very helpful in not only educating, but spreading information and now getting also financement for the group, which is really great. Because there is a muestra of Latin American documentaries, which is going to happen in May. We had to push it till May. And there's wonderful activities going on for the whole group and for the community, and also recognition from different ONGs or funding entities that know about ADOC PR, know about the members. And that's been also very nice to not be, you start your project on your own, and it's very hard, and until you finally get the financement and get your group together, it's a very lonely process in the meantime. And I think ADOC has played a wonderful role in supporting all of us.
So now that you're retired and been in Puerto Rico for 37 years, and you have a community there, I mean, you can get a music composer like this because you know where they are, who they are. You can get the right people, DP, and so on. Do you see in the future producing projects back in your home, your original roots of Mexico? Or do you see that your roots are in Puerto Rico and you're gonna produce more there?
I'm trying to spend more time in Mexico because of family reasons. My sobrinos and sobrinos nietos are growing up, and I really want to spend more time with them. And there was a wedding, and I'm actually now in Mexico City. It was beautiful, a beautiful gathering for all of us through the wedding of my nephew and his bride. But I also know that my work is in Puerto Rico, so I'm flying back tomorrow to start a new project. So I feel blessed, and thank you, Luis, for always supporting me, and also Pregones, because I remember we screened. I don't remember if it was Mona or Quince Faros de Puerto Rico. Do you remember?
You've done it. You definitely did. The biggest crowd we ever got at Pregones for Bronx Film Wednesdays was Después de Maria, after Maria.
I was Después de
But
Maria.
that was, it was standing room only. And you were there. We had Marisol Seda, who was a former journalist from New York One Noticias, was there. So you've made a difference in New York City, even though you're 1,500 miles away in Puerto Rico, your tentacles have been felt here. Your artistry, your love for the Puerto Rican community, which we love in New York City. You know, we love all those stories. So for that reason, Sonia Fritz, we give you the Prime Latino Media Community Service of the Year Award, because you certainly have earned it these many, many years. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm honored. I'm honored to be in this company, really.
Thank you. So I'm going to bring David Norris back. David.
Yes, I'm here, right here.
Don't leave me. Come back, David.
I'm here with you, Louis.
So you're my ambassador to Puerto Rico. You have been in New York. You screened a film at a film festival, actually because of the next person you're going to introduce.
Well,
from
yes.
Puerto Rico also.
A dear friend of mine. This next award will be given to the humble producer, writer, musician, and director, Omar Camilo. I met Omar a few years ago in a small theater in Rio Piedras. From then on, a great friendship was born. Camilo called me one day to help him in one of his projects, and since then we have not stopped collaborating. His hard work and dedication to filmmaking has transformed the lives of many artists, myself included. Omar has dedicated himself to create, write, and produce projects for film and television, and has been kind enough to bring filmmakers, in many cases new and inexperienced, to collaborate with him and enhance his ideas. This, without a doubt, has given way to the formation of a lot of young new talent. Omar is one of those artists capable of discovering talent in others and helping them grow without any personal interest. Omar is one of those colleagues who become family. Hola, Omar, bueno verte aquí. Saludos.
Omar Camilo, you know, to know Omar is to love Omar. One big difference between Omar and me is that if I starve, only I die. If Omar starves, he has 2 daughters. And so he has to make money. He can't be totally reckless, but we crossed paths when I found out that you got money from the Puerto Rican government to appear on public television in Puerto Rico with Mundo Breve, where you would get funding, limited funding, but you would get funding and you would commission 6 directors, something, was it 6 or 7?
6.
6 directors in Puerto Rico that you would choose, and you would give them funding, and you would say, make your film. And you would find them. And again, that is phenomenal, because one of the biggest problems we have as artists is money, financing. And you would find it, and then you would find new talent. And I knew Rey Figueroa already, this great, he's a star. He's going to be a major star. And because he did one of your films and told me about Mundo Breve, and I followed the thread to you, when I was the programmer of the Puerto Rican International Film Festival in New York, I programmed all 6 of your films because I thought it was wonderful. And to show who you are, you got on a plane. We didn't pay for your ticket. You got on a plane and came to New York to represent and support your films and the film festival. And that, I'm sorry, that's an immediate entry into my heart. Why do you continue to do Mundo Breve?
Bueno, yo voy a romper un poco el protocolo, pero voy a tratar de ser lo más breve posible también, para que me puedas traducir.
Yo puedo traducir.
Básicamente, Mundo Breve fue un sueño realizado de poder juntar talentos.
So this series in Puerto Rico called Mundo Breve, which is brief world, a brief world, was a way of bringing in filmmakers, and especially new filmmakers. Was it? What was the mantra there?
Todos los que yo pensé que eran de los más talentosos, si no los más talentosos del país.
So he picked what he felt, irrespective of their stature and level, what he considered were the best filmmakers on the island of Puerto Rico.
Para contar breves historias nuestras, somos 6 autores directores.
So these were people who wrote and filmed their films, and they were all short films, which is why it's called Mundo Breve, which is it's a brief stories of the world.
Con la idea de abrir básicamente un taller de trabajo que se convirtió no solamente en 6, sino se duplicó y se alcanzaron a hacer entonces 12 historias. Así que cada uno pudo hacer 2 historias de no más de 10 minutos aproximadamente.
So it was something that also started with him commissioning 6 works, but they actually did 2 stories each. So it ended up being 12 stories told.
Y pues la dicha de poder no solamente ponerlos acá en Puerto Rico, sino también lograrlos hacer viajar como cortometrajes para festivales, pues nos llevó a viajar el mundo entero porque se alcanzaron cerca de 52, si no me equivoco, selecciones oficiales en 4 continentes.
So the beauty of this was that it also went beyond Puerto Rico, where the films were entered official selections in 52 film festivals around the world. So it was also getting the voice and the talent of Puerto Rican filmmakers to a broader audience.
Exactamente. Y quien me presentó aquí con ustedes, que lo amo, mi hermano, desde entonces, David Norris, hizo uno de los más premiados, más de 15 premios con Nos Vamos para París.
So one of the films that he did specifically with David Norris has won 15 prizes. Not only did it come to our film festival, I know also Melissa Ramos in 21 Islands Short Film Festival has also screened that. So lo que siempre voy a preguntar es la importancia de trabajar en colectiva. ¿Por qué significa cuando tú podrías hacer un dineral haciendo anuncios, haciendo comercio? ¿Por qué te dedicas tú, aparte de hacer dinero para mantener la familia, sigues creyendo en buscar proyectos sin mucho dinero, pero para apoyar el talento? So why do you, when he does press, he works for publicity, he can do commercials, when he could have a much more lucrative profession, why does he also work with smaller budgets and other talent throughout the island of Puerto Rico? And why is collective work so important to him?
Bueno, yo vengo del teatro, así que mi formación teatral, incluso mis primeras clases fueron de circo. Así que mi formación...
So he comes from the theater world, and specifically his earliest experiences were in the circus world.
Soy estudiante eterno de toda la vida del mismo Luis Oliva, que da clases ahora por allá, se fue para allá, para Estados Unidos a enseñar también.
So he's a student of Luis Oliva from Puerto Rico.
Y básicamente yo crecí en una familia socialista.
He was raised in a socialist family. Don't tell Lillian Jimenez that.
La escuché, estoy con ella en eso. Tú eres de esa escuela, yo soy de la nueva escuela, entonces en ese
He says he's from the new school of socialism.
Y básicamente creo pues creo que no sé si es por humildad o por qué, pero creo que por qué no compartir cuando hay tanto talento aquí. Aquí en Puerto Rico tú casi le das a una piedra y sale algún talento, tú sabes.
So I don't know if it's
Por-
humility or just the fact that there's so much talent in Puerto Rico that if you just even strike against a rock, it just spews with talent.
Así que yo comencé haciendo un programa para promover talentos jóvenes artistas de las distintas ramas del arte que se llamaba Expresión, luego se llamó
So he
Exprésate.
started working with different branches of creativity and artistry.
Y creando perfiles de cada uno para presentarlos en una plataforma televisiva, en la televisión pública.
And so they did profiles on these artists that they screened on public television in Puerto Rico.
Y pues básicamente es algo que era, en su momento fue una misión y prácticamente con todo mi trabajo lo he continuado haciendo. Todo mi
So
trabajo
what was
siempre
originally a
colaborativo.
project has ended up being a mission in life for him now. And it's something he continues to do and will continue to do. Y por eso es que nosotros te estamos dando y pensamos en ti, estando en Puerto Rico y todo eso, por la diferencia que haces, no solamente en Puerto Rico, pero en este país, pero regando la voz, que se corre la voz puertorriqueña en todo el mundo. Por eso te estamos dando el premio de Servicio Comunitario del Año de Prime Latino Media.
Yo eternamente agradecido estaré porque yo me siento realmente como no sé, no me sentía parte del grupo. De repente hay tanta gente que yo también admiro muchísimo.
So
Como la
I
gente de
said for that
Pregón.
reason, we've given him the Community Service Award, and he says he's humbled because he didn't even think he was part of the group, but that he's connected with so many people here and hearing what's going on that he does feel part of it after all. So no, eres nuestro y siempre vas a ser nuestro y no nos puedes huir. Muchísimas gracias, Omar Camilo from Puerto Rico. Next, we have Jose Rodan, who's our administrator, is going to introduce our next awardee.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to see everybody. Congratulations to all the awardees tonight. I have the privilege and honor of presenting the next awardee, who is not only someone who I admire, but also a dear friend of mine as well. Felix Rodriguez. Felix has been working on a project pretty much the majority of his life, I guess I want to say. I don't think he realized what he was doing when he started the work that he does, but Felix, I want to say, and I'm sure he can tell the story better than I can, but Felix has been documenting a lot of the history of the ballroom history within the LGBT community. And he, while most of us were in the clubs getting drinks, Felix would walk in there with the camera in his hand recording, right? Recording the history that was being made by the icons and by, the legendary mothers and fathers of various houses that were taking homeless gay kids off the street and giving them a place to call home, helping them get off the street, taking them off of drugs and putting them back in schools. Felix was recording all of this and documented all of these things. So now, God knows how many years later, I won't say how many years because he'll probably kill me by revealing his age, but now we have all this amazing footage that if it wasn't for Felix, we wouldn't have this knowledge. We wouldn't know who these people were, or who these icons were, and what they accomplished. So he's actually working on a documentary and putting it together. And he's been doing a lot of work and educating the younger generation and what ballroom is about, what Vogue is about, because it's more than just a dance style. It's about history and identifying ourselves as the LGBT community. So Felix, huge hugs, congratulations. I'm honored to be able to present this award to you. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of it as well. So
thank you
Thank you
very
Jose.
much.
Felix Rodriguez, born in New York, but raised part of his life in Puerto Rico, came to college here. So you really straddle both cultures and have foot in each world. But again, the 6 degrees of separation and how we're all connected and the beauty of a community is Ana Ramos was responsible for airing your first documentary short 25 years ago on La Caridad, on La Bruja, you know, de la Luz, known, you know, proudly as La Bruja. And you did a documentary short that Ana Ramos screened then. And why tell this story? What drew, what propelled you to tell this story and put the story about this Puerto Rican spoken word artist from the Bronx?
Well, she was beginning her career as a poet, right? And also diving into singing and rapping. And she was getting married and she had 2 kids. So I was very interested in seeing the behind the scenes of how this woman in 2000, right? The year was 2000, was struggling because most people were like, oh, we would like to hire you, but you're married and you have kids and you know, the stereotype of like, you're too old, right? So I just wanted to feature the struggles that a Puerto Rican woman from the Bronx, trying to be true to her culture and true to her experience, was having a really hard time because she wanted to succeed and it was very difficult, you know, and it started from the expectations from her family all the way to producers and agents that were not very interested in giving her the opportunity.
Everyone has a story. I think that we can all agree on, whether, especially documentary filmmakers, but those who've made great narrative films have borrowed from real life situations and maybe embellished it a little bit. And as we heard from Vagabond, who's like, oh my God, you know, 2 of the 3 murals I worked on are gone, but I photographed them. And I'm like, well, get it out there, you know. So you who started shooting haphazardly, sporadically 30 years ago, and you're now considered one of the greatest archivists of ballroom dancing of that era because you walked in there with a camera. Why, as storytellers, is it so important that we as archivists include that in our storytelling and document life?
Well, part of it was I was coming out of the closet at the time and I was mesmerized and obsessed with the scene, right? It was a way for me to express myself. It was a way for me to see other people that were a lot more out there and proud of who they were. And I was coming out myself, so it was a way for me to be more comfortable in my own skin. So at the time, we're talking early 90s, you know, we were living through the, you know, the virus of AIDS, and a lot of the people from that community, we were dying. So I wasn't even sure if I was going to survive, right? So I wanted to, in my own way, record and memorialize these people, right? They were so talented and they had so much, and I could relate to that. I could relate to being un Latino de color y no teniendo la oportunidad de expresarme, right? And when I went into a ball for the first time, I was just like, I feel like I've been here before, right? It felt like, you know, something like almost spiritual, where it was like, you know, here we are in this, you know, new world, or here I was in this new world, but it was something that I really wanted to capture because I knew that it would be essential for people in generations to come. So like Jose said earlier, I didn't know what I was doing when I started recording them, and I still don't know what I'm doing with all this footage, but I definitely want, one of the things that I want to do, especially about the ballroom community, is that a lot of people are familiar with the ballroom community because of Madonna's Vogue video, right? Madonna's Vogue song, or with Paris is Burning, the documentary Paris is Burning. But there's so much more to that story, and the story really hasn't been documented. So Jenny Livingston did a great job in describing what the ballroom scene is, but there still isn't documentation of the history. And that's my goal, to really explain the history and to explain the reasons why people join these houses, which are basically a family that, you know, that support each other in situations when you are not supported at home.
Well, for that reason, as an archivist, as a lover of our culture, both from the island and here in the United States as a Latino, we really appreciate what you're doing, and how you've given your heart to the community, what you've done in telling stories of people who haven't had a major voice. For that reason, we give you the Prime Latino Media Community Service of the Year Award, and
Thank you.
appreciate all you do. So
Thank you,
gracias,
thank you,
Felix.
thank you. I'm
Okay.
very honored. And again, thank you to all that are here, because again, like everyone has said, I'm echoing what everyone has said in the past. I'm honored to be given this award with so many great people. I see here Sonia Fritz, who I've met, and Lilian Jimenez, and people that are also part of Third World Newsroom, which is I'm a part of, but also Jose Bayona. I met, actually, I was introduced to Nalit because of Jose Bayona, and I haven't seen him in years, so it's great to see him here as well. So thank you, everyone, and it's great to see everybody. And
thank you. What a small world.
It
What
is
a
very
beautiful
small.
world.
A tangle
Thank
web
you.
we weave.
So, Luisa de la Ville, I'd like you to introduce our next awardee. Got you, Fernando.
Hello, hello, everybody. I'm very honored and very happy to be here at this event. It's really great to be here. When I've been producing a documentary called Children of Las Brisas, and when I needed to find a lawyer for the documentary, something called my attention. I asked for different, very trusted people from the East Coast, from the West Coast, and they all recommended Fernando Ramirez. And I said, that says so much of him. So it was a very easy decision to make, especially after I spoke to him the first couple of times, because I trusted him right away. There's something about Fernando that helps you, and as he has helped so many others before me, because I'm one of the recent ones, but he's been working for such a long time. He's very enthusiastic about his work in a very caring manner, and he ensured that we would have a smooth road, even though there were a lot of bumps along the way. And he helped us go through them in a very, in that manner that, it was difficult, but if you're next to someone that you trust, then it made it, much, much easier. We're really very grateful to have Fernando by our side. I know that there are many important people here, and I'm sure that Fernando is also someone who should, que debería recibir este reconocimiento.
Who
of the
deserves
Prime
to get this
Latino-
recognition.
Yeah, of the Prime Latino Media Community Awards. And besides that, Fernando, so many remote meetings, so many. We have to have a beer in early spring.
Yay.
Congratulations, Fernando.
Thank you, Luisa. I mean, Fernando, we go way back again to the NALIP days. I mean, I know you for at least 23 years or so, 22, 23 years. We met in the apartment of Ana Araiz, and Ana Araiz was the leading Latino music promoter in New York. But I remember sitting with you in Tucson, Arizona, in panels that you've been in, and even sometimes being, very upfront with me. And it's like, oh, I'm doing this stuff for free all the time. But that's who you are. And that's who you've always been. And it's like, even to your own detriment, why did you do it then? Why did you do it then? I'm not going to even ask if you still continue to do it. And I know you don't get fair market value, because what connects all of you as community service awardees is you could be making a lot more money than you're making. And you've done a lot of documentaries for the National Black Programming Consortium, Latino Public Broadcasting. But why did you do it then? Was it a stepping stone or just your essence of who you are?
You know, when you reached out to me and mentioned that I was going to get the award, I was flattered and honored, of course. I said to myself, I think of community service, and I think of a past life, right? I think of a prior existence when I used to be an organizer around environmental justice issues primarily, and then subsequently when I went to law school, a legal intern and fellow for these prestigious civil rights organizations, and then after that being a cooperating attorney for some of them, mostly one. I really didn't think of, you know, of doing the type of work that I do as community service. But, you know, part of the reason why, frankly, I choose to be independent and practice and not merge with any firms, and I get solicited on a regular basis or go in-house counsel, especially now with the level of experience I have, is because when I started, I really didn't have any mentors the way I did in the civil rights movement or the organizing movement or the EJ movement. I was lucky enough to have been mentored by these dynamic women, lawyers, activists of color, and some white, progressive, but mostly Black or Latino. And for me, I learned from them, you know, perseverance, right? And being able to commit to something. And when I started doing this, I was lucky enough that I had one or two people who would take a chance with me, including some of the people that are here today being honored and participating. So part of the reason why I did it is because I got tired of hearing these horror stories about lawyers. I continue to hear these horror stories. And so, you know, some clients, depending on horror stories that I hear from colleagues, and I have a few from clients, but mostly you get the satisfaction of providing a quality service for people without having to worry of capitulating to the pressure, right, that you get from partners and bosses and stuff like that. So it's fun. I get to vicariously. I mean, it's difficult. I think the word entertainment law is ostensibly entertaining, right? Because it's difficult. We all know that. It's very competitive. But I get the satisfaction of being able to be a small part of these documentaries, like Lillian's documentaries or Vagabond's films. You know what I mean? Or saying that I've done some work for Felix. You know what I mean? And the gamut of what that is. You know, MacArthur Fellows. You know, nominees. I mean, I've been lucky that for the last 10 years, 12 years or so, probably more, every year, at least one project gets nominated for an Emmy or something like that. And so, you know, I do it because I really get the satisfaction of educating my clients, you know, like Luisa alluded to, right? I get the opportunity to educate some of the clients that I work with.
So let me ask you, and I could go on hours with you, but in closing, would you do it? Would you take the path that you have in the last 20 years in developing your career, having aligned yourself with the entities you did and working on the projects that you did? Or would you have done it differently to maybe empower more people or higher visibility projects beyond independent?
You know, that's a tough question because if I could do it all over again, I probably wouldn't have, frankly, because it's been a tough road, you know. But maybe it's the mentors that I had and the influence of, like, as I alluded to earlier, resistance that kind of pushed me. Maybe it's just that I'm stubborn or hard-headed, but I don't recommend to law students that I've mentored to do it the way I did it. And in fact, I'm proud to say that the few that I've mentored, they've done all right for themselves, of color, and they work for institutions that I would have, you know, given an arm to work for, Netflix, Showtime, because I made sure that when they came in and they interned with me, that it was going to be a quality mentorship, not just like, you're going to file for me. This is going to be more like a clinic. And when they interviewed, they impressed the interviewer because they really understood the nuances of the things that I was teaching them in the industry. So I don't know that I would do it. I, you know, to say would I do it again? No. Would I do it differently? I probably would have tried harder to find a mentor. I just couldn't find one. You know, my mentors were my clients. Those were my mentors.
Right. But you know what? The community is really, really lucky. I mean, Eddie Pagan, I don't have to tell you about Eddie Pagan, cited to me this morning, 8 a.m. in the morning. He used to write a column in AIVF,
That's
an
right.
institution of, you know, American independent video and filmmakers, which was a great magazine. It's like now with the independent publication, if you're a filmmaker and you're not getting the independent online, you run out and get it. It's free. You can get it downloaded. But there used to be AIVF, and it was a great stellar organization. And Fernando used to pen a legal article devoted to filmmakers as to pitfalls to avoid and things to optimize.
And I will say one thing to that quickly. And the reason for that wasn't because anyone there gave me the chance, frankly. You know, even frankly, even there were some people there that I knew that because I was starting out, including some Latinos who were like, who? Benny Matias gave me that opportunity. You know
That's
what I mean?
wonderful.
And so that's what I mean. You know, things come sort of full circle. Yeah, you know, I'm very lucky to have worked with the filmmakers that I worked with initially when I started. And so this is an honor. Thank you very much. I'm lucky to be in the presence of all these individuals who you picked.
Well, you know, it's, you know, sometimes negative things come back and haunt you. And I was determined to make sure that you remembered where you come from, what you've been doing, the tremendous difference you've made to individuals and in the industry. And for that reason, you are the Prime Latino Media Community Service Awardee of the Year. And we absolutely respect, love you, and cheer you on. So
thank you. Thank you.
So gracias. And oh my God. Oh my God. Sonia, did we lose Sonia or anybody else? We've got an extended time. The goddess, we've got goddesses coming on now. And as only a spiritual atheist can say, can we bring Sonia Gonzalez Martinez, por favor?
Ooh, ooh. Hi guys, I'll just get right to the point. So
Get right to the point, you know.
The goddess with a capital G. I met Iris when I was in the early 90s, when I was a young activist at the National Congress for Puerto Rican Rights.
Iris who?
Iris Morales.
Okay.
I had just read a Xerox book on the Young Lords and had my mind blown by these young, audacious Puerto Ricans. And when I met Iris, she was a combination of open warmth, but also quiet fortitude. Cállate, my dog is just being a pain in the ass. I saw that
I thought it was your stomach.
No, it was my dog is right here. I saw that she was rigorous in all her endeavors as a creator, as well as in her mission to educate and support work that will nourish Puerto Rican and Latinx generations to come. For those of you who are unaware of her legacy, she is a lifelong activist and organizer for social justice, racial equity, equality, women's rights, and the decolonization of Puerto Rico. Her love of community, history, and storytelling led her to media as a tool for social change. And currently, she is the founding director and executive editor of Red Sugarcane Press, dedicated to the publishing works about the Puerto Rican and Latinx diasporas in the Americas. I am honored to honor you tonight, Iris, with the Prime Latino Media 2022 Community Service Award.
Oh my God. Iris.
Sonia.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And
I would have made it longer. I have so much to say and so much love, but you know, the floor is yours.
I appreciate it. And thank you, Louis, for putting this incredible group. You've put
I know.
together a collective.
It is
We're
a
talking
collective.
about collective. We put together a collective, and this collective shows why collectives are important, because
you.
everybody has played a role.
Right.
Everybody plays a role. And that is what it is a collective is about.
Can you increase your volume or
Yeah.
something?
Oh, I have a special
Now,
mic because
right.
everybody complains.
Right. I know. This is the one. It was the same thing last week, but because your voice is wonderful, I just needed technologically to come out there.
Okay, is it better now?
Yes, and so
Okay.
there's, as you've learned, and I can proudly say, I have had a 2.5 hour conversation with God, with Iris. Edith gave me 2.5 hours on a Saturday, and I'm like, Edith, we got to go away
Doing
for
laundry.
we got to, right, while I was doing laundry, we got to go away for a weekend because we have so much to talk about. We need to eat. We need to do what we do best: eat, drink, and talk about life and social reforming. And there's a method to my madness, as I've told you before. And the reason I had you, because, and I don't mean to offend you, but you are to so many of us a goddess. And I say that in the most wonderful way. But I needed you to experience everybody else. What did you think of them?
I'm telling you, I feel quite humbled because the passion that everybody brings to their work is what makes the strength of the collective. And I felt that coming from everyone. In a way, I felt like um, my work hasn't been as directed as everybody else's. My work has been in film, but I've also manifested my interest in media, through mentorship and in other ways. So I was very much taken by, because one of the things that I do say to students is, follow your passions, and something you can also make a living at. But follow your passions, and that will give you joy, because we live in a society where you keep saying that all of us could have made a lot of money, right?
You're a
But we live.
lawyer. You're a
I'm
lawyer.
a lawyer. I could have gone that route. Fernando, I feel you. I feel you tremendously, because I did work as an entertainment lawyer for 10 years, which is another part of my history that I don't, but I didn't feel fulfilled. And I felt I had to return back to community work. But I don't regret the experience, because, as you were saying, it was very enriching. I worked in public television. It was very enriching. I learned a lot. I grew a lot. And then I was able to use it for my own projects. So I hired myself on my projects. So I guess what I'm trying to say, that the values that we bring to this work is, at the end of the day, what matters the most. And I started as a community organizer, organizing tenants, and I loved it. I loved knocking on doors. I loved making trouble. I loved it. And so that kind of defined me for the rest of my life. At that point, I thought that the problem was that we didn't know how to navigate systems, that we didn't speak English. And so I went to court. I translated for people. I filled out the forms. But I quickly realized that it was not about that it was that the system was not set up for us. So, what I've appreciated about this collective that you've put together is that you have people that are working inside, but people that are also working on the outside, and people that know that we need to challenge where we stand within this industry or within this society, period. Um, so that's what I got. I got the energy of all of that, uh, from the selection of these incredible, beautiful Latinx folks.
So my favorite sport is beating up my people. And yes, we can beat up a goddess like you, which is, you know, I what my biggest job is to promote you individuals in this collective, and to cite, oftentimes, if you even refrain from the term unsung heroes, and someone like you, for 50 years, again, entitles you to that term goddess. The thing is, when you say that you have not mentored, I mean, one of the things you did when you left the legal profession was you created a program to mentor young people in media literacy. If that isn't mentoring, if that isn't preparing the next generation, so and do I have the trajectory correct that you were a lawyer for 10 years and then you did this? And tell me about that experience.
Well, after lawyering, I lawyered for 10 years, and after I was not feeling fulfilled as a lawyer. And people talk about glass ceiling today. Think about glass ceiling. I was the only Latina and I was the only woman in that legal department. And I worked there for 10 years. And when I applied for the head position, they told me that I didn't have the proper image. And basically, I said, I'm sure that when you think about a television attorney, you don't think about a woman with red nail polish and red lipstick carrying a briefcase. But I have the experience of anybody here. So eventually, I had to settle. And I said, I want the same deal to settle that you give a white man with a law degree from NYU. That's the deal that I want. Because they tried to buy me off to settle me, for me to settle with them for peanuts. And I said, no, I want a white man's deal. So eventually, it worked out for me because there were personal things happening in my life and I needed to take care of my family. So it gave me the opportunity with that settlement to be able to do that. But in the course of that, then I had to say, well, what makes me happy? And what makes me happy was working at that time with young people. And so there was an organization that was in the process of being established to do English as a second language via cable television. The municipal channels were just beginning. And so I said, well, I like that. So I went there not fully knowing what the job was going to be. They didn't really know what they wanted me to do. They just knew they wanted me to do something. But this was under Giuliani, and he decided to cut the funding. So
like so much funding he cut.
So when he cut the funding, then I started looking around for other funding. The woman who was heading up this project decided to leave. And she said, I'm going to close the door. And I said, no, I don't want to close the door. I said, I want to have an opportunity to do it. So I started the New Educational Opportunities Network and found some funding to train young people as production assistants in television. And why production assistants? Because there, at that time, if you remember, there were students were on welfare, and you could attend some training or some school in order to get your welfare check. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to train them to be television. I'm going to train them in television and while they're collecting their check. And I said production assistant because production assistant, you don't need a college degree. You can work in the office, you can work, on set, you can work an assistant. All you need to do is be smart, and that's how I saw it. And it was an opportunity for my students were 18 to 26-year-old and on welfare. About 3 years into the program, they start coming in and saying, Miss Morales, I can't make class because I have to go sweep the park. And I said, who you saying? I mean, I thought they were BSing me. And I said, you have to go sweep the park? What kind of a story is that? Well, it turned out it was a true story. In exchange for their check, they now had to sweep the park. And that was just one step to begin to shut down the program. But for 5 years, I ran that program. I loved it. And we did 26 weeks of video production training. I had a morning and an afternoon class. I had to struggle with issues like there were big cameras. I have a picture of it somewhere on the internet. Cameras were so big. I said, we need to find smaller cameras for the women because the cameras were so big that the women would complain, oh, Miss Morales, I can't, that shit weighs, right? So there were all these kind of things that I was learning, and I was very happy there. And I remember when we closed down, I called certain community-based organizations and I said, we have to close, but we have computers and papers and paper clips. Come and get it. Put it out in the world because we need to have it reincarnate, right? So that it creates opportunities for other people. We gave to it when the people would come in and they would go, oh man, and then they would see us that we were without jobs and they would go, oh, sorry to hear about it. I said, don't worry, don't worry. We sat there. It was the first summer that I had off in my entire life. And I went that summer and I spent it in the mornings at the beach with a friend that was also unemployed, drinking beer and watching people walk by. And then in the afternoons, working on Palante Siempre Palante, which I was just starting.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but are you a founding member of the Young Lords?
I am one of an early member. I'm not a founding member.
Okay, so you're one of the early members, but what we're also celebrating here is in October was the 25th anniversary of the premiere of the iconic documentary Palante Siempre Palante on POV. And for another show, we'll discuss the roads you traveled with that. But so you, again, why we give you that term in the most affectionate way while respecting you professionally, calling you goddess, is are you surprised that 25 years later we're still going through some of the shit you were fighting 50 years ago? Or is it different? And is there something slightly better now?
We have both better that we have fought for, and we have a very difficult situation that we're in. We have to remember that our struggle emanates from colonialism and slavery. That's where it starts in the Americas, in any event. And so our struggle has been from then to now. And so I hate to sometimes just say, are things better or things worse? Because we're part of a historical continuum. And along the way, we have seen victories. We have had great victories, and we need to celebrate those victories, like when we got Rosselló out, or when we won the 8-hour day, although it's not recognized today
anymore.
So we have victories, and that's what we fight for. And we fight in different ways. There's room for the activist, there's room for the community organizer, there's room for the attorney. It's what we're fighting for. So, but we're in difficult times right now, and it's more than anything, it's a time to build community, to build institutions. I want to shout out Pregones because, they are a model for, and they have remained true. I often say, who has remained true? And, for longtime activists like Lillian and Sonia herself, who have remained true. Fernando, who has remained true. I don't know you very well, but I feel like connected to you. Maybe it's the lawyer thing. So, but we're in a difficult time, and it really calls for us to close ranks and to do what we can do with an eye toward possibility, the possibility of hope, not the possibility of hope within the system, as Vagabond was saying, but the possibility and the hope of creating a new system, which is what we were saying, to imagine the possibility of what we can create. And we all know what we can create. We all talk about if we had the resources, if we had the time, if we had, help, if we all know what we can create. Our community is talent full. Our community is leader full. We just don't have the resources. As far as the entertainment business, I think we also, what many people here are doing is creating alternatives. We can't be just with the hand out waiting for something to happen. It ain't going to happen. They're not going to pay us to tell this. No one would fund Palante Siempre Palante at that time. 25 years ago, nobody would fund it. When I did Rebel Women, I couldn't even get the feminist press to fund it. So that's why I decided I'm going to do my own books. It's what I can do at this point. Create Red Sugar Cane Press. Cuando pasó Huracán María y Irma, yo fui a Puerto Rico. Yo soy nacida y criada aquí, pero mi corazón estaba en ese momento en Puerto Rico. Yo fui a Puerto Rico para recoger las voces.
I'm born and raised in New York, but I'm Puerto Rican. And I went to Puerto Rico after the hurricane to record and gather the voices of those there.
And put it into an anthology.
So
I'm very proud of that anthology because it got the voices. I really felt that we have a lot to learn from Puerto Rico, because in the countries of the world that have been hardest hit by everything, including the pandemic at this moment, they have had to struggle and face realities that maybe we haven't had to do, and we can learn from their experiences.
So my closing question to you is, how have you, as another term we bestow upon you, you're a queen in our community. How are you, as the queen of community, how have you created community through this book publishing company you've created in giving voice to a community or communities?
Well, it's a struggle, when you're trying to create community and find different ways. And for creating books, I decided that I wanted to work very collaboratively with artists and activists in creating a book. And then for the book to have a life beyond being on a shelf or being on the internet, because self-publishing made this possible, that you could have books now on the internet, so that the book then becomes a project to go into the community. For example, I did the Latinas protests, gathered the voices of Latinas across the country, and then held a session at Mothers on the Move in the Bronx and other places in order to have conversations about those ideas. At the bottom, it's what I did with Palante. Palante continues to be shown, and we have conversations about it, because it's an organizing tool. For me, so much of my work is about creating resources and tools to continue to promote our community and our struggles.
I'm going to close saying that I was privileged to attend. It was a Third World Newsreel and Mi Gente symposium that screened your film and had you on for an hour. And it was amazing to hear young people, but people in general, touched by you, from California to Arizona, from Compton, California to Phoenix, Arizona. And, you're still inspiring. You're still, and it's even, there was a Colombian woman who said she was inspired by your Puerto Rican story. And, that you've inspired Mi Gente. embodies also who you are. It inspired Latino, feminist, LGBT, evolved to the Si Se Puede movement. So all I'm saying is if we could have a 2.5-hour conversation while I'm doing my laundry, will you, and I'm going to, as we're going to put you against that white wall, will you at some time in the future give us an hour, a 60 to 90-minute conversation with this community?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all I
Let's
asked
give
for.
me a date. Before
Okay.
we go, I want to raise a glass of congratulations at Tio Louis and to the award winners tonight, and just in recognition and to say we love you for the community that you have created.
Well, you know, wouldn't be anything without all of you. So thank you, from Fernando to Sonia to Melissa to all the people I'm not seeing on the screen. Iris, thank you for giving of your time. Rosalba and Alban are still on. Maria in California is still on. Eddie Pagan, you know, Felix Rodriguez is still on. Lillian Jimenez, Vagabond, Rosemary in California, Pa, you know, Mirta, you know, we have, it's, you know, I'm humbled by all of you. I couldn't do it alone. Un millón de gracias. Thank you to Jose Rodan Jr. for being the administrator and keeping us, you know, lit and in light here. I'm very happy. Carol, thank you for being part. Ana Ramos from WNET, still part of this. Thank you for being part of this. And, you know, I didn't cry. You know, I get very emotional because I speak from the heart. Camilo from Puerto Rico. You see, you have a community in New York. You are worldwide. You belong to us, okay? So,
Gracias.
un millón de gracias, Sonia Fritz, Rosalba, you know, and Alban, you know, you are adored. Pregones is adored. Neida Martinez, oh, damn, Neida Martinez. Thank you for the work you do. Y un millón de gracias. Los adoro, Luisa.
Gracias a ti.
La pérdida de Venezuela, la ganancia de Nueva York, you know, and, you know, I can, if I die tonight, my sleep, I go very, very happy. So, un millón de gracias.
Gracias, Tío Luis.
Thank
Gracias.
you.
Abrazo.
Louis,
You're
you're
the
the
best.
best.
Louis.
You're the best.
Gracias a todos.